You just ought to be a part of the talk that goes on before these podcasts launch. And my goodness, Amy and Sam and I were talking about some things that are happening in churches, particularly in North American evangelism, and some of the possibilities that are there. We got information galore coming out. About said out of the wazoo, but I don't think I'm supposed to say that on a podcast. We got information. I think I just did. We got all kind of information coming up, but we're going to be talking to you today about 4 glaring church leadership deficiencies you can correct immediately. And when I looked at them, I only needed to work on 4 of them. So I feel pretty good, Sam, that I'm only deficient in the 4 that are mentioned there. Hey, before we get started, let me talk about our sponsor that is more than a sponsor, Church Answers University. It would be trite to say I'm really excited about it, because people say they're really excited if they just wake up in the morning. I'm really excited to be waking up, and maybe that's the way we should do. But I'm really excited about this because this is the new direction that churches are going to provide training for their staff, for their laity. It is in lieu of a degree. Are we replacing seminaries and Christian universities and colleges? No, they'll still be around. But is it an alternative for those who cannot do so? It's an incredible place. You can get all the courses towards your certification in Christian ministry or your certification in women's discipleship. All of those for a ridiculously low price, all 10 courses. When it's done, you get a diploma, just like you got an undergraduate or a master's or doctoral diploma. It looks just like that. And churches more and more are going to be accepting people who are coming in through the certification path. So if you have not perhaps gotten your seminary, a master's degree from somewhere, if you have lay people that you want trained, if you have people at other campuses that you want trained, and you want them to get what is essentially the equivalent of a degree, but they can do it in 9 months at an incredibly low price. And by the way, Tyndale provides all of the books at no cost to the student. Learn more about it at churchanswers.university. I could say a whole lot, but we're supposed to have some content. So learn about that at churchanswers.university. Sam, you are at the best when we're talking about corrections, pivots, and self-awareness. All of those come into play with this. That's why I love how you created this topic.
Yeah, I think everyone would admit that they have deficiencies somewhere, and if they're not willing to admit that, well, that's a major problem in and of itself. But these are 4 that we've seen regularly, and 4 that I think a lot of people struggle with. Dad, you're batting 1,000 on these deficiencies, as you mentioned. So
I've got all 4 of them.
I don't assume that all of our audience is going to have a problem with all of them, but perhaps 1 or 2 you could work on, and that's why we're going to be talking about them today. What kind of sparked this was just the passage in Romans. Romans 12:18 says that, live at peace with everyone. If possible, try to do that. Same sentiments found in 1 Thessalonians 4:11, in which Paul says, live a quiet life, mind your own business. Unfortunately, sometimes these instructions go ignored. So we're going to talk about 4 things: thoughtfulness, hospitality, agreeableness, and humor. And I think that this can help us live a little more according to Romans 12 and 1 Thessalonians 4. We seem to be more at war than we are at peace. Polarization is part of this, which we'll talk about in point 3. And we'll start with thoughtfulness. So here's the first point. We've got to stop reacting viscerally and start taking time to think. I don't see as much thought.
That's one of the leadership deficiencies that you have confessed to on more than one occasion. But you know what?
Yeah, I would like to say that I would like to say. Yeah, I'd like to say that I am thoughtful but react viscerally, but many times when I react viscerally, I'm not being thoughtful. And this would be one that I would say I am deficient in. I like to think, I like to learn. That's different than being thoughtful. Thoughtfulness is more than just, I understand the argument and I'm making my points well. You can be combative and do that. Thoughtfulness is you um, considering another person's feelings, another person's perspective, another person's place in life and what's happening around them, and caring more about where they are than winning an argument or making a point.
I love it. I love it. Then we talk about hospitality, Sam. You and your wife are among the best at hospitality, whether it is opening up your home or going out with someone and taking them to coffee or a meal. You and Aaron do that par excellence. I can't imagine you would put this on your checklist like I do. I'm an introvert and I have 3 deadbolts on my doors.
Yeah, our home is always open. In fact, this morning I get up early and I run. So I got up about 5 a.m. this morning and I ran. And when I got back home, Erin, she told me, she goes, "Hey, just so you know," um, she mentioned the name of one of Maggie's friends. I won't mention the name just because don't want to advertise the name of kids that are out there, but so and so's over here. And I'm like, oh, thank you for telling me, because I would not want to walk around in, home in my underwear or something like that and have one of my daughter's friends over at the house. But that was at 7 o'clock this morning. She came by.
Hmm.
I have no idea why. She was sitting, when I got back from our run, she was sitting on the sofa watching TV. And the rest of the family wasn't even up yet. So Maggie, her friend, wasn't even up yet.
Oh my
so
goodness.
so to your point, yeah, our doors are always open, and we do enjoy having people over. We do enjoy hosting. I'm bigger on taking people to ball games. I love taking
You
people to
do
Tampa
that
Bay Rays
really
games.
well.
I did it this week. I took a pastor to the ball game. Unfortunately, we were playing the Cardinals at the time of this recording. Unfortunately, he was a Cardinals fan, but we were at the game where Taylor Walls walked off with a home run. So Rays won, and it was a good day for me. Bad day for my friend, but you know what? At least I showed hospitality and took him to the game. So this is all about time. It's all about openness. It's all about having your home available to people. Part of a biblical requirement of being a pastor is hospitality.
It
It's
is.
the same level as doctrine, and people miss that. Being hospitable is just as important as having the right doctrine. And I'm not saying that to diminish doctrine, but to say that often we think of pastoring as you making sure that what is taught in the church is proper. Well, that's true. You're the gatekeeper of doctrine in the church if you're the pastor of the church, um, but just as big as is you being a hospitable person. We've actually talked about this on some previous episodes, but I think it bears repeating that a place where people are often deficient, especially in this season with our where we are coming out of COVID, is hospitality. And I understand that maybe some people had some fears about opening their home for health reasons. I get that and I respect that. But for most people, we've moved past a lot of that. And I think it's time. If you haven't done that in a while, it's time to have some people over.
Have some people over or take some people out. You can show hospitality in a lot of ways. And Sam, really what we're saying here is the book of James should be included in the canon of Scripture, the doctrine, the faith.
Luther would disagree with you.
Oh, it's not that
Martin
story,
Luther.
Martin. It is just really that good. And so James would say, "You really think you have faith? Well, faith without works is dead. Well, doctrine without hospitality is dead." That's just my paraphrase there.
Yeah. Yeah. So thoughtfulness, I think we need to stop reacting viscerally, start taking time to think. Hospitality, we need to open our homes, especially to people you need to know better. It's one thing to open your home to your friends. It's another thing to open your home to somebody you may not know. Get to know
Good.
some new neighbors. Get to know some new church members.
Mm.
And then agreeableness. Point number 3. And agreeableness is people default to arguing now. And I think that it's better for us to default to areas of common interest. Because when you default to arguing, you're fueling the fire of polarization. And it is a major problem in our society. It is a major problem in our churches that we automatically move to why this other person is wrong and why we are right. And man, I would much rather us, and I can struggle with this too. I like to argue. I like to win an
Hmm.
argument. That's why I
Really?
argue, is to win.
Really?
Yes.
Boy,
Yeah.
you're 42 years old, and I'm just finding out this about my firstborn. You like to argue.
I I don't do it. So I don't take it personally. If somebody wants to do a point counterpoint, I'm fine with it. I can even take a counterpoint that I don't even agree with. I just enjoy the debate. I enjoy the argument. I enjoy the process. But not everyone feels the way that I feel. And unfortunately, with polarization, it's not people just enjoying a good debate or banter. It's people who genuinely think that they are right and that the world will end if the opposing view gets their way. And with the vast majority of life, that's just not the case. There are certain things, certain hills that are worth dying on. But there are many, many, many others that are not worth dying on. In fact, that hill is a molehill, and we're making a mountain out of it.
And
So I think this,
what we have today, Sam, is a megaphone called social media that makes this argumentation, this negative spirit, exacerbated. And it was bad before social media, but it is multiple times exponentially worse with social media.
yeah, and let's say you're hanging out with somebody and you know that they have a different view than you on something. Just don't talk about that. Talk about the other thing that you guys agree on. We tend to like want to move into the argument way too quickly. If we're going to be around another person where we're going to talk about the thing that we know we disagree on, it's going to just agitate everybody around us. Well, no, let's first build bridges rather than burn them. And this is something I find myself deficient in. Because I consider myself an agreeable person, but I also just enjoy a good argument, and sometimes the enjoy a good argument overtakes the agreeableness. And I just see a lot of that in churches. I see a lot of it in society. So thoughtfulness, hospitality, agreeableness, and
Let,
I want to kind of camp
let,
on
let
the
me
last one. But
let
you
me
go
let
ahead.
me, let me interject just one thing, Sam. This is advice for leaders in churches because that's what Rainer on Leadership is primarily about. But this agreeableness, as you well stated it, which is finding something that is a commonality that you both agree on, that's good marital advice too. I mean, instead of going to
Yeah, we
areas
don't
where
do marriage advice.
but it is good marriage advice. I mean, I think
I have.
about okay. Yesterday, for example, I'm vacationing at the beach today, so just get that out there. And yesterday we went to Apalachicola, a nearby town, beautiful water town. You know it well, Sam. And when we were in Apalachicola, I wanted to go to the station. And the station is this laid back place to eat that I just absolutely love. I mean, the people, the laid back atmosphere. It feels like you're in the Keys in many ways, and you're just looking at the water right around you. And when we were done eating, Nellie Joe wanted to go to some art galleries.
Oh, which
Well,
I'm sure you were very agreeable to do.
I certainly did not disagree because she went to my restaurant. I will go to her galleries. Now, I do admit that after about 20 to 25 minutes looking at one painting, I did step outside for a little while to just check to see if anybody was urgently trying to contact me on my phone. But I still was not argumentative about it.
Well, I'm glad you were agreeable, Dad. We do not do marriage advice here on Rainer on Leadership, but if our advice does spill over into that world, then I'm glad that we can be of help. I am the least. I'm not the person that needs to be giving marriage advice. Although later today, I know our listeners really don't care about this, but I'll say it anyway. Later today, I do have some marriage counseling that I will be doing. But this is our last session. You know what I do in our last session on marriage counseling, Dad?
Plan of salvation?
No, that's the first session. We make
Okay.
sure that they both understand the gospel. Prayer. The last session is we're just going to have a time of prayer together. We've already worked through everything, and I always want the people who are getting married to just pray together. And I'm kind of looking forward to it.
The last marriage counseling session that I did as a pastor, after they finished, they postponed the wedding. They ended up
Maybe that
getting
was a good
married,
thing. I
but
don't
they
know.
had uncertainties after they went through my counseling.
That was probably over 25 years ago, I would think.
Oh gosh, yeah, it was 1994. So yeah, 28 years ago.
Well,
Well,
well, you left being a pastor, you left with a bang. You had people delaying their marriage.
yeah, I got other stories, but that's not the purpose of this podcast.
Well, speaking of stories, that does get us to our last point, which is humor. People, they just laugh a little more. People, please laugh at yourself, laugh at others. Maybe you should laugh with others, not laugh at them. But we need more jokes. We need more laughter. And I think we're in a cultural context where people just take themselves way too seriously now. And it's going to be better for everybody if we just laugh more. One of my favorite things to do with my staff, which I don't think they really enjoy all that much, but I do it anyway. We use Slack for communication. We use it far more than email. Dad, one of these days I'm going to get you on Slack.
Talk to
And
Amy. She sees you. Talk to her. If she tells me I need to be on Slack, I'll be on Slack. But you aren't going to
and
convince me.
and I like putting really bad dad jokes in the all staff channel where everyone gets it. And I guess that's my prerogative as a lead pastor to do that. And
I
I mean
guess.
by bad, I mean like they're painfully bad jokes that I don't make up, that I just come across and I'm like, I have to share this. Um,
Well, my testimony on this is I use levity. I am just not consistent with using levity. In fact, I remember every now and then I buy my three sons a book, and it's rare that I will send all three of them the same book. But I bet you know the name of the book that I sent you several years ago to this topic. You guessing it?
well, I remember the first children's book that you bought, your grandchildren, my children, was The Gas We Pass.
Well, that was not the one that I was thinking about. I was thinking about the book, The Levity Effect.
Well, my mind went to the children's book that you bought my children, which they love, by the way. It's The Gas We Pass.
I didn't realize that was a humorous book. I just thought it was a neat book for my grandkids.
It was not a medical book by any
Oh,
stretch.
okay. I got it. I got it. These are four great points on church leadership deficiencies: thoughtfulness, hospitality, agreeableness, and humor. And sometimes we do these podcasts, Sam, and I just think I need to listen to us more often
Yeah.
because
Hey, you know who has a really good sense of humor?
who's that?
Christina, our new
Christina.
our,
Really?
with Belay.
Belay. Oh, you're going to talk. What a segue. What a segue.
I mean that because we just had our meetings. We had our weekly meeting. Christina is a new assistant here at Church Answers and a virtual assistant. She does a phenomenal job, and we got her from Belay. And that was one of our traits when they did our thing. When we talked to Belay about what we were looking for, we said we got to have somebody who has a sense of humor because we're going to tell all these bad dad jokes, and they're going to have to laugh at them.
Yeah, yeah, and other things for sure. And Christina has been one of several hires that we have had over the years. We always talk about Jana. She started as a belay person. We ended up buying out the contract, and she's now full time on the team. But boy, if you want to make a personnel decision where you're not locked in forever, you can see how it works, though they always work well with belay. And you want somebody that's matched up with you in terms of personality and needs of the company, they are incredible. So I love it that they're one of our two final sponsors for this day. Let me say this too before we go. I talked about Church Answers University, right at the
Yeah,
beginning.
churchanswers.university. You should go there and check it
I
out.
forgot to mention if you go on and sign up now through this podcast, and the link is here, you'll get $100 off. So I meant to mention that. But I know you want to talk about our incredible sponsor to finish this up as well.
Yeah, I certainly want to mention Tyndale, an incredible sponsor that we do have. And they want us to talk about A Rebel's Manifesto by Sean McDowell. And I am glad to talk about it because A Rebel's Manifesto is an insightful guide for students and youth influencers as they sort through the competing visions battling for dominance in our world. Sean McDowell aims to encourage and inspire this generation to be the rebels who will dare to stand up in a just and loving manner. And he helps the next generation navigate the issues that have become online shouting matches with calm, clarity, and confidence. And boy, this goes right along with what we've been talking about, which is, engaging with a sense of agreeableness, thoughtfulness, humor. A Rebel's Manifesto is going to help you with all of those things. So go check that out. The book's from Tyndale, again, by Sean McDowell. The name of the book is A Rebel's Manifesto.
Love it. And, in the case of Sean McDowell, that's the son succeeding the father, and a good example of that, succeeding Josh McDowell.
I think so. Both of them very, very good at what they do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Sam, I'll let you close it.
Well, I certainly want to appreciate all of our listeners. Thank you guys for tuning in. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen, and we will hear you, see you, depending on how you consume this, whether it be YouTube or audio, on the next episode.